In this episode, we're going to explore the world of dopamine, a chemical that plays a crucial role in our survival. According to Dr. Lemke, dopamine is fundamental to our survival, and it's the chemical that tells us whether something is worth approaching, exploring, or investigating. She explains that dopamine is a signal that helps us experience pleasure, reward, and motivation. In fact, dopamine is so essential that without it, we wouldn't be motivated to seek out the things we need for our basic survival. Dr. Lemke uses the example of rats engineered to have no dopamine in their brain's reward pathway. These rats would eat food if it was placed in their mouths, but they wouldn't be motivated to seek out food, even if it was just a body length away. This experiment highlights the importance of dopamine in motivation and survival. Dr. Lemke also explains that dopamine is not just related to pleasure and reward, but also to movement. In fact, Parkinson's disease, which is a disease related to stiffness and tremor, is caused by a depletion of dopamine in a part of the brain called the substantia nigra. When it comes to everyday activities, Dr. Lemke notes that almost everything we do has an impact on our dopamine levels. Even aversive stimuli, such as pain or discomfort, can trigger dopamine release. Novelty and new experiences also trigger dopamine release, which is why we often feel a sense of excitement and motivation when we try something new. However, Dr. Lemke warns that our brains can become addicted to dopamine, especially in a world where we're exposed to so many reinforcing substances and behaviors. She explains that our brains are wired to seek out pleasure and reward, but in a world of scarcity, this mechanism was beneficial for survival. However, in a world of abundance, this mechanism can lead to addiction. Dr. Lemke uses the analogy of a scale to explain how dopamine works in the brain. She explains that when we ingest a substance like alcohol, it releases dopamine in the reward pathway, but our brain compensates by down-regulating dopamine transmission. This process is called neuroadaptation, and it's a fundamental mechanism that helps our brain return to a state of homeostasis. However, in a world where we're constantly exposed to addictive substances and behaviors, our brains can become overwhelmed, and the balance between pleasure and pain can become disrupted. Dr. Lemke explains that this is why people who are addicted often feel like they're walking around with a balance tilted towards the side of pain, experiencing anxiety, irritability, insomnia, depression, and craving. Dr. Lemke also notes that trauma and stress can play a significant role in addictive behaviors. She explains that when we experience trauma or stress, our brain releases dopamine as a way to cope with the pain. However, this can lead to a downward spiral where we become addicted to the substance or behavior that's releasing the dopamine. By recognizing the mechanisms that drive addiction, we can develop empathy for those who are struggling with addiction and work towards finding ways to overcome it. As Dr. Lemke notes, we're all wired to be addicted, and if you're not addicted yet, it's right around the corner. However, by understanding the role of dopamine in addiction, we can take steps to prevent it and live a healthier, more balanced life. If you enjoyed this episode till now and want to listen to the complete episode, please subscribe to Quick Podcast Summaries on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for just $1 per month, and you can save an average of 20 hours per week of your precious time. It's a fantastic deal to save time and stay informed.